my first involvement with the group was when I was first diagnosed. I was there at a consultation with the doctor, and he told me that I had prostate cancer, that doing nothing wasn't an option, and went on into other things that I think I didn't really hear because everything was becoming slightly blurred. But at some point he gave me a folder, which I've still got and still refer to, and in that folder was a leaflet about the group. And I went away from the consultation, and after a couple of weeks of getting very confused and wondering what I was going to do next, I found the leaflet again and contacted the address in the back, and got a really nice reply by phone, and had a good conversation with someone, and began to realize actually I wasn't on my own. And the person I spoke to gave me some really good advice about how to approach my next consultation, and embark on the journey of deciding what sort of treatment I was going to have. And then I came to my first meeting, because he invited me to the first meeting, and that happened to be a really informative one. It told a lot about what was going on in the hospital, so that was really useful to me. And I realized when I first came into the room and saw so many people, just how many people were in the same boat, and I didn't feel quite so isolated anymore. So that really was how I first came to be involved. Jeff, I don't know how you first came to be involved. I know you were already there when I first came.
Yeah, I went to my first treatment, radiotherapy treatment, and one of the chaps there told me about the group. And fortunately, there was a meeting within a couple of days, and I was very skeptical about it. I'm not a club person, if you know what I mean, and so I was a bit skeptical about it. But Glenda, my wife, she said, let's just go and see. And very much like yourself, Dennis, when we got into the room and just saw so many people there, and the first couple of people I spoke to, they'd not seen me, they didn't know me from Adam, but they quickly filled me in on what was going on. And there was a speaker that night, and again, it was a very useful talk. I can't remember what the subject was actually, because it was a bit overwhelming, the whole feeling of, as you said, Dennis, of so many people actually in the same boat. And I found that tremendously reassuring and comforting. I'd been in a bit of a state up until then about the whole issue. So that was very, very good, very therapeutic, and it's remained so. You've been in it a lot longer than me, Ted. How did you first get onto it?
Well, I was diagnosed in 2004. In those days, prostate cancer didn't have a high profile then, so I didn't know much about it. I did not know what to do, who to talk to. I thought it was the end of the world. I went to the first meeting, which was quite soon after I was diagnosed. The main thing I took away from it were there were men there who'd been diagnosed at least 10 years earlier, and they were still seemed happy, laughing. So I couldn't be that bad after all, I thought, and I took it from there. Hilary, how do you think?
Well, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer just over 18 years ago, a bit before your time. And at the time, he was been asked by the consultant and specialist nurses at the time if he would be interested in forming a support group with similar other patients. He was very keen on this idea. And so along with about 4 or 5 other men, a consultant and nurses, a committee was formed. A constitution was then drawn up, and so the support group began. So we carried on attending, and until he unfortunately passed away 3 years ago, not with prostate cancer. And I've continued to support the group and give help, mainly with refreshments, etc., when needed. I know my husband really found the group very interesting, and he was always keen to help promote it as much as possible. So that's my sort of part.
Andrew,
Yeah, let me.
how did you come to join the group?
Put a picture to my story, which is very similar to that yourself and Ted and Jeff have spoken of. I was diagnosed in 2008. Most of that first diagnosis with the consultant went over my head, so I came away somewhat uneducated as to what the next move was going to be. But it was the Macmillan specialist nurse, I think, that was promoting the group. And there was a meeting coming up within only a week or two of my diagnosis, and my wife and I said, yeah, we've got nothing to lose, we'll go and have a look. And again, was impressed or surprised by the number of people in the room. But what also made for me quite a difference straight away was I immediately recognized 2 or 3 other men. And then as the evening progressed and we were talking, other men recognized me. So we almost had that sort of shared problem together. And we had sort of more than one common denominator. It wasn't just a prostate cancer. We shared other business, it was mainly business interests, I think. But it took away a lot of that sort of early ice and fear. And it was a number of years before I finally got to have radiotherapy. But again, I can't remember the name or the detail of the first speaker we had. But obviously the evening was good enough that we've been going ever since. And that's over, the last 6 or 8 years or so now.
That's really interesting, Andrew. I think it's quite. I think I was in the same boat. That first meeting I went to, I met someone who I knew from the cycling club, and I'd been out for a ride with in years before, and it was quite reassuring to realise actually it's not you're not going into somewhere completely new. It's part of everyday life and meeting the same people. Andrew,
right.
What do you think are the benefits of being part of the group now? You've obviously stayed with it.
I have always a very sort of inquiring mind, and I'm never wishing not to sort of learn something. And I find that every meeting we learn either from the speaker or from somebody else there that is talking about their past work or career. And it just becomes something you want to go to when the date gets close. It's something that I, in the last year or two, have not ever wanted to miss. And I don't think we've missed more than the odd 1, maybe 2 meetings over a number of years now.
That's great. How about you, Ted? What do you think of the benefits? You've probably been a member as long as.
Yes, well, there've been a lot, and mostly, I suppose, from the interesting speakers we've had about different subjects, because you can never learn enough. And, we have our PSA checked every few months, and so we're all watching that. And you just want to learn, and especially with all the new treatments which have come in this last few years have been astonishing. So, as I was told once when I was concerned about some back pains, and that they didn't think that was a problem, but there was also always something in the cupboard which they could find to help. But I think the main thing is knowing that we're all in the same boat, and if you want to speak to anybody, you know they'll understand. They feel the same as you feel yourself, and yeah, I think that's a great asset.
Thanks, Ted. Hilary, how you've kept on coming?
I kept coming.
Yeah.
I don't know why. No, I mean, I've made lots of good friends with one lady in particular, and you know, it's just nice to talk to the other wives and give them a bit of support, because you know, if it wasn't for the wives, a lot of the men might never be there, because they wouldn't have had their PSA checked. It's always the women that have to encourage men to go to the doctor. So yes, I just enjoy the social side of it and making the cups of tea.
I think you're being very modest. I think the role of the partners is really important, isn't it? Through our journeys. So I think when I was told that my surgery had been successful, the most audible gasp was from the person sitting next to me, not from me. It was just another part of the journey for me. But I hadn't realised just how much she'd been bottling it up for all through the period it had been going on for.
Yes, that's often the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they, you know, get a lot of support talking to other, you know, wives, partners who are going through the journey, as they say, with their husbands.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have to, it's difficult sometimes to cope with that all.
Yeah, I think it's one of the benefits about our group is that partners are involved just as much as the men who are suffering from it. I think you probably said the same, haven't you, Jeff, at some point?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that always strikes me about the group is that, you know, when we start the meetings, when people start arriving, there's lots of laughter, there's lots of smiling, there's lots of interaction between people, including the wives. And I think the wives bring a nice balance to the meetings. And certainly there's lots of friendships being formed. And I mean, Glenda has often said, you know, it was just so nice to find that other people, other partners were in the same boat, not just the men. So that's been quite useful. But I think one of the really helpful things about the group is the atmosphere that we've managed to create over the last couple of years. And it is a very friendly atmosphere. And it's an atmosphere that creates the chance and the opportunity to talk about the problems that you have. The reason that's there is because we've all got them. We've all got those problems, you know, and it's, I mean, I've spoken to people who, when I was having radiotherapy, I was a bit concerned about what it would be like at the end of it, sort of thing, you know, and just spoke to a couple of people who completely put my mind at rest, and everything they told me has turned out to be true. And that's one of the things I've always appreciated about the group, and one of the reasons why I keep going. But I think, as I said right at the beginning, I think one of the main reasons is it is a friendly, interesting, and welcoming group. It's well worth coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't agree more with you. I think it's also quite a good reality check that it would be very easy to think after you've had your treatment and you're beginning to feel better again and the side effects are wearing off, that actually that's it, I don't need to do anything else. But you do need to keep on top of things. You do need to look after yourself, and just going along every so often, you talk to other people and see how they're getting on, and it just keeps you on the ball and make sure you don't neglect things. I think one of my great benefits was Ted giving me the booklet that Tackle produced, which is a fantastic resource of information, and the group is so good at having that information there to point people toward. So that's been really good. How about the social side of the group? Hilary, I know you've been involved in doing the teas and things.
Yes, but yes, on the social side, I mean, I was just going to mention that we've had several lovely summer lunches at a pub, which have been really successful. And then And a couple of years ago, another member arranged a lovely 3-course meal at a local hall. And at the Christmas meeting, we just have a more light-hearted speaker. Members and wives bring a plate of goodies, and lots of food is consumed, and that's a really lovely sociable evening. And that's the just sociable side which I really enjoy. I shall continue to come as long as I'm able to and help with the tea.
I know you worked hard, Andrew, in getting all the speakers together for the meetings.
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge. It's normally I'm fed a number of names of potential speakers that somebody has either heard from or listened to at an event. And the difficulty normally only is getting hold of these people. You know, you either track them down, try by phone or try by email, and nothing happens. You have to sort of work at it a little bit, but the result is very satisfying, because 9 times out of 10 they come to the meeting, they give us half an hour of their time to speak, and quite often another half an hour or more after the meeting. And they, at the end of it, when I the following day send them a little thank you note, normally by email, I normally get a very nice email back saying how much they enjoyed our company in the evening. And it is, as Jeff was saying, this sort of friendliness, friendship sort of overflows. And I was going to make another point that up until I was sort of 65 years of age, I'd hardly seen the inside of Ipswich Hospital. And then, you know, 1 or 2 things need attention. And as I say, I was diagnosed in 2008. And coming to the hospital on a regular basis for the meetings takes away some of that anxiety of entering a building that you're unfamiliar with and going down corridors and seeing, you know, people in white coats, etc. Yeah. It can be somewhat off-putting and disturbing, I think. But sort of coming into the lecture theatre on a regular basis and meeting more and more of the staff from Ipswich Hospital, and just either we're listening to what their job is within the hospital, be it oncology or be it, you know, we had an interesting speaker on from the Path Lab, didn't we? That gave us a real insight in what happens when, you know, they take these few millimetres of blood from us, as to all we get is a result, which we possibly may not understand, but the result is either good or bad. But to have an understanding of the size of some of these departments, Path Lab especially employs hundreds and hundreds of people doing thousands of tests a day. And it's that sort of thing we'd never get to know or learn about unless we're involved with the group.
Yeah. And I think we should thank your good lady who does a tremendous job with the raffle every time. And
well, that was sort of my introduction. Apart from sort of sitting and listening, the wife was asked whether she would help with that raffle, and sort of once she got the job, a bit like Ted's job, she's got it for life, I think. But, again, we enjoy it. We enjoy it.
Good. And I'm sure Ted is very grateful for the donations raised as treasurer, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Every little helps.
Every penny counts.
It's very noticeable that over the last few years especially, the way the meetings go, right from the word go, as soon as people come through the door, they're involved. You know, they sign in as we have to, and they're involved. And then we've now got a system where we pick up new members, and that's important, that you pick the new members up so that they don't walk into a room and don't know anybody. Any new member, one of us will go and greet them and meet them and tell them what's going on, and help them assimilate into the group, which is, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to, you know, get chatting to other people, but it's important that we do that. And I think that was one of Glenda's hotspots. She wanted to make sure that new members didn't wander through the door and then get ignored, or, you know, because nobody knew them. So we make sure that we're there for new members, and they assimilate very quickly into the friendship.
We had to have that system, didn't we? Because as the group has grown in recent years, and the meetings have grown from 20 or 30 people to 60, 70, 80 people sometimes, unless we can identify those new members straight away and get them through a sort of our own little introduction to the group. They would get lost in the crowd.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's a nice opportunity, isn't it, for a new member to be able to just tell their story quietly to someone fairly anonymous, who's non-judgmental, not looking to treat them or anything, just listen to them. And it's really good. Yeah. I love the social events and the speakers that we've had. And the one that stands out most in my mind, and I'm sure it does in many members, was the cheesemaker.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Who brought all the samples, which was even better. I wished I hadn't had my tea before I came to that meeting.
I mean, one of the early speakers when I just joined was Martin Bell. I found him very interesting.
Yes.
He had a nice way of putting across his time in the armed forces, and I found that lightened the atmosphere a lot. So, but we do have some really good medical speakers and people that.
It's nice to have the balance, isn't it?
Between it's very nice.
Pure medical and other people with an interesting story to tell.
Yeah, the lady with the medical dogs. I mean, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yes,
that fascinated me.
Yes,
that was just going through my mind as well, because they've used those. They were at one point looking for the dogs to see if they could actually sniff out COVID, weren't they?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We had Charlie Haylock, didn't we? Who's been in the news recently with the dig.
Yeah.
The dig.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating individual to listen to, isn't he?
Very. Very clever chap.
He is.
Good. Well, thank you, everyone. I think you've done a magnificent job in describing what our group is like.